Greetings, Blood Bowlers, and welcome to the All or Nuffle podcast, your one-stop shop for all things Blood Bowl. Greetings, Blood Bowlers, and welcome back to a brand new episode of All or Nuffle. Today, I am joined by the returning Gary.
Hello.
And we've got another guest with us today. Introduce yourself, Sean.
Hi there, I'm Sean. Good evening, everyone.
So today, before we get into it, we're going to talk about stalling in all different aspects. But I did just want to quickly give a mention to a Kickstarter by a gentleman of the name, I forgot his name. There it is, Mark Latham. It's the gentleman who did the rulebook tabs, Gary.
Yeah.
He's got a new Kickstarter on the go for skill tabs, little reusable stickers that you can, put on bases to identify who's got what skills, things like that. It's got 22 days left on it. It's currently got 316 backers, and it's got £8,121 backing it of a £2,000 goal. So, if you want to get some little stickers that make it easier to identify who's got what skills, check them out. If you just go into Kickstarter and search Mark Latham, he's got a couple of different ones on there, and you can also go to his website, which is, bear with me a second, ruletabs.com, or rulebooktabs.com, sorry, and you can buy the rulebook tabs as well that are no longer available on Kickstarter, but he just sells as an actual product now. So yeah, now we've got that out of the way, let's get to the nitty-gritty, shall we?
100%. Let's do it.
I said, just a thing though. If those tabs though, the tabs, you could use them in your fridge, couldn't you? You could identify cheeses like Mighty Blow. You could have.
Boom! I'm loving Sean already. Sean, you don't even need to say anything else now for the rest of the podcast. You have just introduced a new. We need to get in touch with Mr. Latham.
This is it. Tackle cheese.
Tackle cheese. Right. So while we are talking about this tonight, we need to think of use cases for each of the skills and what you would label them for on your things in the fridge.
Okay.
Right. Okay.
I'm loving this.
Yeah.
I reckon if we talk enough about Mark Latham's skill tabs, he might even send us a few spares to put in the fridge on some of the things we've labelled.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm looking through the book now.
Surely, a more befitting one for cheese would be a block of cheese.
Oh, that's good.
That is good. So, what's your experience of Blood Bowl then, Sean? Just so that everybody knows, I'm a complete newbie. I've been in it for a year-ish, but still a complete newbie.
I started Blood Bowl a little while ago in the good old year of 1996.
Ooh.
I know. That was third edition, I believe. It was the first one with the cardboard pitch, anyway. But it was a little small group of friends we were playing then. I was really into Warhammer and stuff like that. It was great. And then I sort of left it for a while, and I guess, as you grow up, you think, oh, these things aren't cool anymore. And then all of a sudden you find them again. And you're like, wow, that game was brilliant. And then had a game the other day, didn't we, Gary?
We did.
We did. We had the inaugural All or Nuffle Nomads game.
It was the first face-to-face of stranger Nuffle Nomads meeting up and having a game. The sheer coincidence that you joined and you were up one motorway junction away from me is not to be mentioned, but yeah, it was very convenient.
The best thing was, Baz, though, you get to Gary's house, he's like, oh, are you there? And you step in, and then he tells to his wife, lock the door, he's here.
Right, this is getting a bit out of control, this is, Baz, because it was Sean that was telling me the story of him having to say to his wife, I'm going to meet a stranger in Clumpton, and we're going to go and play Blood Bowl. Oh yeah, likely story. A stranger off the internet.
It's when you said about stalking, and so I sent you a picture on Google Earth of your house, Gary.
That was it, and it was a good game. It was a really good game. We had a giggle. Took far too long doing it. I think we only managed a half, didn't we? Because I think time wise,
all that was needed. The halflings scored 2 in that time.
I couldn't believe it. Couldn't believe it. It's Griff. I got griffed.
Only once.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah.
Cool.
But I do tend to find for
I got another one
like
for
my
you.
first ever game, the Blood Bowl, was one half that took like 4 hours to play. So I think that I think it's a pretty common thing for newer players or returning players.
Yeah, we're going to have to be careful, I think, with some of the competitions that are coming up, because I think my playing is getting longer rather than shorter. So I think I'm going to start playing with a chess clock, just to force myself to play a bit quicker.
Yeah, it's definitely a good way to do it.
I found it really useful though, because I think both of us ended up playing both teams in effect. We were just sort of talking it through, and it was really educational.
Yeah, I found it useful.
So,
right.
What is stalling is a good place to start, because, like I say, there's probably new players who are listening to this who are relatively new to the game, who have just got a grip of the basic rules and haven't even entertained the idea of this section in the rule book that says stalling. So, first of all, a player is classed as stalling if all of these things it's aligned with. So, number one, the player is open. The player is in possession of a ball. The player is able to activate and perform their declared action without the need to first roll a d6, so bonehead or anything like that. And finally, if the player is able to move into the opposition's end zone without needing to rush or dodge. Failing to activate a stalling player before your turn ends, even if the turn ends unexpectedly with a turnover, or activating that player but declining to score a touchdown, is classed as stalling. So, in summary, stalling is choosing not to score when you can.
Without rolling a dice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, when do you think that's, like, either of you guys, when do you think that is most likely to happen? When is somebody most likely to think, right, I'm going to stall now?
Can I just step back a little bit and just explain why stalling even is a thing?
Of course.
Is that right? Yeah, because I've been doing loads and loads of research, right, on Blood Bowl, and for newbies like me who are going to get beaten, sort of 3-0, 4-0 sometimes, or are going to have 1-1, dodgy games. I think that the plan when you're playing, Blood Bowl competitively is meant to be that when it's your drive, you try and score, and the other person tries to stop you scoring. And when it's the half time, then again you try and score on your turn, and the other person tries to stop you. And it's a game of trying to win 1-0 effectively, unless an opportunity presents itself. Now, when stalling comes in, is when you find yourself a little bit further up the pitch than you'd anticipated on turn 3, 4, 5, or 6. And you're like, do I really want to score early and then give them a chance to be able to score this half and then receive the ball in the second half? So that's why I think stalling exists, and it's something that's talked about, because there is two sides to the equation. You absolutely, if you're moving up the pitch slower, then that's in effect stalling. The fact that you can't score from where you are, it's just sort of almost stalling.
Yeah.
As a sort of real world analysis of this, I'm not the most sportiest of people, but I do like a bit of ice hockey and stuff. But I do know that in sports it is a legitimate thing that people do stall, but it's also the thing that probably raises more people shouting at a TV.
Yeah. That's fair.
And what other sports are there? Not that a lot of Blood Bowlers will be the sportiest of types, but like football is like, if you're 2-0, if you're 1-0 up and there's 5 minutes left of the game, you're likely to be passing the ball around, in your own half, just trying to waste a bit of time. Not even
rugby, that, Gary, but even things like in football, when there's a throw-in and the player doesn't like that ball, so wants to swap the ball, or the goalkeeper takes his time taking a goal kick, things like that. They're all technically stalling, aren't they?
Yeah. Yeah. And I can see why some people don't appreciate being stalled on, and I can see why some people would absolutely want to stall. So there is definitely two sides to it.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely,
But,
100%. And like you say, it happens in loads of different sports. But it does happen in loads of different sports. I mean, the closest real-world counterpart to Blood Bowl, American football, it's actively built into the game. Like, if you've got 10 seconds left on the clock and you want to wind the clock down to win, you can snap the ball and take a knee, and that ends the play. So the game's not actually being played, but the clock will continue to wind down to 0 and end the game.
Yeah.
So if I could just ask a Blood Bowl question here. This is what I've sort of learned about relearning Blood Bowl. So if you're kicking first, it's kind of, if you've got like a general team sort of thing, you want to end up almost stealing the ball from the other team and score it. And then when it comes to you receiving, you want to score. So you sort of take advantage of both halves, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
So any more than that, it's a bit sort of, if you've got a fast team like you've got, Baz, then they could probably do a lot more. But say, if you've got dwarves, you're quite lucky to do that. So, in a sense, if you're receiving and you can do what you need to do halfway through through the round sort of thing, then I could sort of see an argument why you could stall.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think it's a very valid tactic, isn't it? And it is completely legal.
Yep. Absolutely, in every sense of the word. So the thing that always mesmerizes me is when you talk about stalling, you have to address that there is not a little bit of disagreement. Like, there's two camps. There's people who do stall and will defend it mercilessly and say, no, I'm stalling regardless of the circumstances. Then there are people who question its legality, because we know Games Workshop mention it in the rule book and acknowledge what a player needs to be doing to be classed as stalling. So it's legal, but the other camp is the one that questions the morality of it. And it's kind of like the same reaction that Sean mentioned to time wasting in real world sports. Like, it's almost like people are angry at the prospect of being denied an opportunity to try and equalize, or to be able to score themselves to even the playing field, which I understand. But if the game that you're playing allows as a tactic for people to take that time from you to play on the clock to increase their chances of winning, you can't be mad at the people doing it, because it's literally baked into the game, isn't it?
I think so. Is there any rules that say you can be punished for stalling?
There is something that you can roll on the prayers to Nuffle, I think, that states that a stalling player has a stone thrown at it by the crowd who are displeased that the player's refusing to score, or something like that. But to my memory, off the top of my head, that is the only time you see there being a negative effect for stalling. I'm sure there is some others out there, and people listening will be like, oh, Baz has forgot this one, forgot that one, but that is the main one off the top of my head I can remember.
Cool, okay. That's good to know.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's the reason, the fact that they've got that on the Prayers to Nuffle table is, and I'm sure, as I said, other examples within rules somewhere, that is the only reason that they've had to specify in that small section on stalling what criteria the player has to meet to be classed as stalling, so that players aren't wrongly having those negatives from the Prayers to Nuffle or wherever it comes from inflicted on them. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay.
So, I think the main issue that a lot of people, or not the main issue, but a lot of arguments that people who don't stall and don't necessarily agree with stalling have is, well, do you know what? I'm actually going to use you as an example at Bugman's, Gary. You had the perfect opportunity to stall, but based on the real world sort of scenario, the fact that you were playing against a younger kid, you elected not to, didn't you? So that's like a morality thing.
Yeah, I think it was, and I think it was my naivety as well. So I'll quickly recap what happened. I was it was game one of a 3-game tournament at Bugman's. I was playing a lad, I think he was 15, possibly 16. He was on elves, I was on orcs. I had the opportunity to, I can't remember what the score was. I think it was 2-1. It was actually 1-1 at the time, and I got the ball, and I was up right up near the touch, the touchdown zone. I can't even remember what it's called, the end zone. Yeah, and I had the ball, maybe a square or two away from the end zone. I had a loose cage around that, and then a secondary loose cage around that as well. And I think it was as early as something like turn 11.
Yeah.
And so I stalled one go, and I was just sort of almost getting into position. So I had two layers of loose cages around it, and he was nowhere near me.
Yeah.
Anyway, and there was no way he was going to get through it. And I sort of looked at it and I thought I could stall this out till turn 16, no problem at all, right? But it felt like a bit of a dickish thing to do. And I just, we were talking about it whilst there was the one round of stalling, and I basically said to him, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm probably not going to stall, and I'm just going to give you 3 rounds to score. And if you score, brilliant. If you don't score, then that's brilliant as well. At the end of the day, it's a game. And he was like, "Are you sure?"
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, let's just make a game of it." Then the reaction, and obviously he went on to score turn 16 and made it 2-2. So when I came out and I told people, every single person said I was stupid.
Including me.
Including you, yeah. And I think what my lesson I learned from that, because I've again since not taken an opportunity to stall, and should have done. I think the thing I've learned from it is, if you're going to be nice, right, then be prepared for them to to take that opportunity to do you over, because that's exactly what both people did. They both scored, and then if you are going to give somebody the time to score, then think about 3 turns for elves. I should have given him 2. Because it took him 3 turns to score. And like Skaven, would I give them 1 turn to score? Or would I give them 2 and go, you know what, let's just make a game of it? But I think the overriding thing through all of it for me on both instances, because I've not really explained the second one, was we were talking about it. We were having a giggle about it, and it was all quite informal, and it wasn't, I didn't feel like I was being, a bit of a dick. And I think if I had have stalled, I could have probably stalled and been absolutely fine as well. That could have absolutely been fine. I think the fact that we were talking, the 2 people were getting on, sort of made it okay for whatever was going to happen. It's almost like table etiquette.
Yeah,
definitely.
So in that situation,
and
in that situation,
go on, John.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to say, so how would it have changed the game, do you think? Because I can see how it might have done it if it was me. But if you would have taken 1 or 2 turns more to get to the end zone,
how would it have changed the game? He would have had to try to come in and hit my double-layered loose cage. He would not have succeeded because I had my big uns on the outside and he had elves. And I had the opportunity to bring more players back and fill in some of my gaps as well. And as did he. But I don't think he would have broken through it. And if there would have been any chance of him breaking through it, I would have just scored. He didn't really put any pressure on, and I didn't invite him to put any pressure on. So some people do say, don't they, that if you're going to stall, then you need... Sorry, if you are going to be stalled on, then you need to be able to break through the cages that people do, or otherwise stalling's a valid tactic. He wouldn't have been able to, but he could have tried with some good dice rolls. He might have.
Yeah, absolutely.
And if I had have stalled to turn 16 and scored, I would have won 2-1. What would the upshot of that have been? Well, I'm a newish player, and I would have been higher up the tables at Nuffles, playing somebody a little bit better than, as it actually turned out. I got, I think it was 2 draws and a loss. So I didn't get any wins, and I didn't think I was going to probably get any wins. I was down in the the bottom third of the tables.
Yeah, and like you say, I think again, like you have to kind of read the room a little bit. Not that should ever deter you from playing your game however you want to play your game, but you can kind of gauge quite easily how your opponent may react if you were to do something like that. Do you think, Gary?
I think so. I think you absolutely can, and I think if you were going to be playing against somebody that would take umbrance at it and say, well, that's a little bit of a dick thing to say, there's no reason why you couldn't stop and say, well, this is where we find ourselves. What's the best way? And almost negotiate what would you do?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's again, we're going back to this same conversation that I think it's very much a particular type of player that would take issue, and it's usually the same sort of player that maybe doesn't react to losing very well.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, and not to tar people with, multiple brushes, but I would imagine that most people who would have an adverse reaction or a negative reaction, as I say, to stalling are probably the same sort of people who have a similar reaction to losing a game at all. So not only are they losing a game, but you are also denying them the opportunity to even be able to fight back. Probably not going to react very well. And then you get some people who are just like, listen, if you want to stall, you stall. And then the way I see it is if you stall against somebody, you are then basically setting them the challenge of, right, you need to put the pressure on me as much as you possibly can to get me to score quicker than I want to.
Which is pretty much what you've got to do throughout the game anyway. And as the dice roll and the opportunities appear, you've just got to take advantage of whatever opportunities appear in a game, I think.
Absolutely.
Not that I'm very good at it, but yeah.
Well, when we played Gary, we did the whole thing of right at the beginning, we had this whole sort of conversation where, like, if the ball doesn't go in your little dice tray, it doesn't count. And I tell you what, it's probably the closest I've ever been to ordering a hooker. You sort of, I want it like this, not like this. I want 5 minutes of this, and all of it. And it was, it's the first time I've ever done that, and it was great because you don't have any questions about what goes on in the game, and if you add, this is a competitive game, stalling's fine, go for it, then you can't have an issue.
No,
I think not at all. And you tend to find in a lot of other games like 40k and stuff, at least in my groups that I play other games with, a lot of the times that's quite common for people, specifically to 40k. I know there are some, not difficult, but some challenging rules regarding certain terrain types. So I've heard people before say, right, what is your take on this rule, and which pieces of terrain on the board are we classing as, for example, ruins, or do you think this piece of terrain classes as that? And then you can use that agreement at the beginning of your game as a blueprint for the rest of the game to avoid having those potential disagreements during your game, slowing your game down, or potentially souring the mood.
Yeah, you get that clarity, don't you, straight on from the get-go, and it just makes the whole thing flow much nicer.
Yeah, and I think having that conversation also encourages the other person to have that conversation back with you. And if there's any absolute no-nos for them, like if they're a person that they don't want you to touch their models, they'll let you know. If you're having that table etiquette conversation at the beginning, what are you going to do with that? What are you going to do with this? What do you want to do about cock dice? What do you want to do about that? And it doesn't have to be, like a serious, we're about to go to war together. It can just be how do you like to play? What kind of table do you like? I like to chat. I'm really sorry. Do you prefer me not to?
I mean, I'm running a league at the minute, and in the rule pack that I put together, I specifically outlined in there, so there were no disagreements. I was like, stalling is a totally legitimate tactic, and I encourage people to use it wherever they feel like they need to or can. And anybody with any issues with anybody stalling, come and speak to me. But I said they can come and speak to me, but all I would have said is like, stop fucking crying.
But I think you can stall. Sorry, go on, Sean.
I was just going to say, is that the fine print of your league thing there?
Yeah, there's a little asterisk next to the part where it says message me, and if you go right to the bottom, it says stop fucking crying, bitch.
But you can absolutely stall, can't you? And do it against somebody that hates stalling, and do it in a way that is a little bit humble, between the tail between the legs, and like, I'm really sorry, mate, but the reason I'm stalling is because if I give you any time, you're going to go up the pitch and you're going to score, and I don't want you to do that.
Absolutely. And a lot of the time, I feel like obviously there are certain matchups where you can't really be to blame, but like if somebody gets an opportunity to stall against me, I always think, right, I'm to blame. I've allowed you to get into a position where you have the ability to stall against me. Therefore, it's now my job to try and, fix that, retroactively, because I didn't do anything to stop you getting into that position to begin with. So it's my fault. It's not my opponent's fault. I've allowed you to get there. It's my job to fix it now. So why would I? If I'm getting mad at anybody, I'm getting mad at myself.
I was just thinking of the same thing. And unlike, say, watching the football on the telly, where you're just watching someone else play a game, you're pissed off because you've let it get to that. And that's what's really got you angry.
Yeah, exactly. 100%.
And what can you do? What are the sort of things that you can do that are, will absolutely break stalling down? I think the thing that you've sort of intimated at then is overcommitting can leave not enough cover at the back. Yeah,
I mean, it's always a good idea. And again, just from my American football background, I will always say, right, if you hear me say, if we ever play Gary, I'm going to leave this guy back here as safety, because there's a position in American football who literally stays right at the back, and his job is right. If everything else goes tits up in this play, and the guys with the ball break through everything else, it's your job to stop them. So I always leave some, not necessarily really far back, but I like to leave somebody at least far back enough. Well, especially playing elves, I don't need to leave them far back at all, but just far back enough so that if anybody does manage to break through anywhere I haven't anticipated, I've got somebody in the backfield who's mobile enough to, maybe they're not strong enough to hit them straight away, but they can at least tag them and slow them down to enable me to get other players down to, then stop them in the tracks. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And not only that, when stalling's gone to, when you don't do that, and let's just say they've got a clean break, they get all the way to your end zone, just before your end zone, and you think, right, fuck, I haven't prepared for this. At that point, for me personally, there is no tactic, there is no plan. It is just, for me, literally, right, how can I get as many bodies down there as quickly as possible to pressure this guy into scoring as fast as possible? Because a lot of people who stall, not a lot of people, but in my experience, there's a lot of times when I've been stalled against, the moment you start to get, 3 or 4 people on the back, in their backfield around their cage or whatever they've got going on to do stalling, a lot of them will think, right, especially depending on the score.
I'm just going to score. I'm not.
Yeah, they'll think, oh shit, I'm in a really good position. I don't want it. It's 0-0. I don't want this to stay 0-0, and then my opponent gets to score, and they get hand up ball just because I was hanging on too long while stalling. A lot of them will go, right, shit, they've got people down here, let's score. And they might have planned to stall for 4 turns, and maybe you can cut that down to 2, and you save yourself 2 turns then to be able to, repay it.
So the first thing you're saying is that if someone is stalling against you, is at least make the effort to get numbers down around whatever the stalling is.
Absolutely.
Put pressure on the cage. Yeah.
100%. If you don't do that, I mean, listen, I'm pretty ruthless. If I'm stalling and you're not bringing anybody back, I don't care if it's turn 1. I'm stalling all the way to turn 8. If you're not putting any pressure on me and giving me no reason to want to score, I'm not gonna until I absolutely have to before half ends.
Could another legitimate thing be, say, if you had a bit of a bashy team that's quite slow, like dwarves or something, and say it's the second half, you've already got a point. This is going to equalise, and instead of making people just run down an empty pitch, you could just take some of their players with you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? Sometimes somebody might be stalling against you, and you might think, do you know what? I'm not going to be able to stop them from scoring. They're going to score. I can't get people down there. You might then, another way you can put pressure on is, for example, like you've just said, Sean, if you're a dwarf player against, like, one of the squishier teams, whether it's elves or something with a lot of strength too, and you say to yourself, do you know what, instead of going down there to put pressure on, I'm just going to start pummeling his players up here, and eventually your opponent might think, oh my God, I need to score before he wipes out half my team.
Yep.
Or you save a wizard.
Yeah. But do you know what? I'm going to tell you something now. The amount of times I've taken a wizard and forgotten to use it is insane. Absolutely insane. I've taken so many wizards and never used them. Like, to a point where I've even at times took a piece of paper and written on big block capitals "wizard" and put it next to my rerolls and still forgot to use it.
So this is a good segue where what you need, Baz, is like a wizard sticker.
Yeah, or even maybe I should start turning up to my games wearing like a wizard's hat.
Like a whole Harry Potter outfit.
Yeah, cosplay, yeah. Do some wizard cosplay. Can't forget that, surely.
Do you reckon you get many nomads turn up? You go, I'm the one in Harry Potter.
No, probably not. Go on, Gary, what were you going to say, mate?
No, I was just giggling at you two talking about wizards. It's like, we're talking about these skills passes and these tabs and fridges, and now we're talking about wizards. It's like, where the bloody hell is this going tonight?
Has anybody thought of any other ones, by the way?
I don't know, but you're a wizard, Gary.
Yeah, I did take a look at a few. I'm not gonna derail us just yet, but I'm gonna at some point.
I mean, I suppose, like, it's different for every person, but if there's anything in your fridge that, for example, something your missus really likes, but you're not a fan of, you could always stick a disturbing presence on it.
Oh, very good.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. There is some traits as well. There's some really, really, really good traits, like drunkard, right? That just needs to go on my head, to be fair.
There's always hungry. I mean, that's a pretty good one. You could just put on the
hungry. Right.
What about on a pack of chicken drumsticks? Put very long legs.
Very long legs. And there is a trait called pick me up. You put that on anything, couldn't you? Pick me up.
Oh God, yeah. If you're a fan of energy drinks, you've got maybe a can of Red Bull in your fridge.
Oh,
pop
pick
that on
me
there.
up, mate! You nailed it. Now, Loner, we're moving a bit further on from the fridge here, but like on the spice, like the what's it called, the Chinese 5 spice that nobody ever uses. You could have that as Loner because it just.
I tell you what, you could have Loner on, Gary. You could. Do you know, like when let's just say it's the last day before you go and do your weekly food shop, and when you've always got that mishmash of ingredients in your fridge where you try to throw something together. Yeah, it's something you try to throw together because you're like, oh my God, I really don't want to go to the shop. I'm going to the supermarket tomorrow. What can I throw together? You could just get a couple of Loner stickers and just pop them on them and say, right, they are the emergency rations for when we get too close to the trip to the Asda.
And then when you have done your shopping and there's loads of stuff in there, you can get the grab sticker and stick it on everything, all the good stuff.
Yeah. And again,
that's the stuff you want to grab.
I know I said disturbing presence for something you don't like, but you can always put a pass sticker on something you don't like.
That's right.
Yeah, absolutely. Or a running pass on something you really don't like.
So bad that the stickers all skew whiff on it because you've put it on and then ran away.
Yesterday's takeaway, you can have plague ridden.
Oh, nice.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
and then if it truly was plague ridden, on your toilet, you can put dump off.
Oh, brilliant. Brilliant. There's an episode all on this, really, isn't there? Hidden
There
here
is.
somewhere,
There is.
definitely.
There is absolutely. So where did we get? Where did we get then with stalling? Have we summarised it? Have we got loads more to do on it? What's the thoughts?
I mean, for me, it's one of those topics that you can have this conversation about stalling 10 different times, and the conversation will go differently every single time, because you'll remember one point to your argument one time, and then especially if you're talking to somebody who's got different opinions than yourself on it, and then another time you're speaking about them, they might raise a different point, things like that. And I think it's just the thing that baffles me is there are a group of people out there who put it this way. I'm not going to name him, but there's a gentleman who I know who plays Blood Bowl, who had a ticket for Bugman's Belter to attend, the one we went to carry. And about, I want to say, at the beginning of January, I run a tabletop hobby club in my local village. We had one of us monthly meetups where we all get together on one Saturday a month and play games. And he was playing against somebody, and he had the opportunity to stall, and he said, "I'm not going to stall. I don't believe in it. I think it's just a dickish move." And basically just started reeling off all these reasons that he thinks stalling is ridiculous. It's poor sportsmanship and all that. And
so what was the context, though? Was it a casual game?
It was a casual game, but this guy's views, based on my previous experience with him, is he doesn't agree with stalling at all in any sense, any scenario. And I just gently leaned over and I said, just to make you aware, mate, after hearing your views on stalling, there will be a lot of that at Bugman's Belter, and you are more likely to encounter it. He is that against stalling that within 2 weeks he sold his ticket.
Right.
At
least he had a heads up. Yeah. Sorry, Sean.
Is there not a grey area there, though? Because, if you're completely against stalling, it would mean you'd have to, always put your players, the maximum distance towards the end zone. And that could be actually non-beneficial for you. So...
Absolutely.
By moving them less and securing your movement slightly slower, that would be classed as stalling in his eyes.
What he always says whenever he goes to score, whenever he can score, when a player would usually be classed as stalling if he didn't, he will always say, "I'm not going to mess about, I can score, I'm gonna," which is admirable. But as you've just said, Sean, there are certain scenarios and certain situational things where doing that makes you actively worse off.
I have thought of another situation there.
Go on.
Which is, so say.
I must say, Sean, I'm a little bit disappointed because I thought you were going to say you thought of another pun for the fridge stickers.
No, not yet.
I don't think he's been lacking in that department. To be fair, I feel like I've not really stepped up to the plate in that department.
No. Well, so say if we were having a game and it got to say I could score on turn 4, but I'm going to stall out. I think every turn that you stall, and you're right near the end zone, it's getting a bit more annoying.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel that if it was me and I was playing you, even though I think you could probably score, it would still be nice to give you a chance.
Yeah.
But not a big chance.
And again, that will vary very much based on the team that you're playing. Like Gary said, if you're playing against elves, you probably don't even want to give them 2 turns to try and score because it's very possible. But if you're playing against orcs or dwarves, something like that, you might think, right, I'll stall, and then he's got 3 or 4 turns to score. They can do it, but it's difficult. So yeah, it's again that's another situational factor. Very much as we've already covered that. Another situational factor is the person you're playing against, their temperament. Not that you should ever allow someone's temperament or etiquette to determine how you play.
Yeah.
Exactly, but it's something that you naturally, if you're one of these more introverted people who likes to avoid confrontation. It's sad that somebody might make you feel there's a potential for a confrontation, but that may, help or decide for you, how you want to play. And then obviously there's the one we've just mentioned that it matters so much what team you're playing and what team they're playing. I mean, for me, if we're talking teams that are pretty evenly matched and got average movement of like maybe 6 across the board with the odd 7, I think the perfect turn to score is 6. It's the one that, for me, I think it's a polite turn to score on, because you're still affording them the capability to try. It's going to be difficult if you're mainly movement 6 and a couple of positionals at 7 to score in 2 turns, but it's very doable. And then
it depends on if your 6 leads into their 6.
Well, that's
so
it.
You might be giving them 3.
Yeah, exactly. But it's again, it goes back to like looking at yourself. So you can say, I'm going to score on turn 6. That leaves my opponent 3 or 2 turns to score. And then for me, I turn it around to, and now it's my job to stop them. And if I don't stop them, that's my fault.
Or at least put pressure on them, yeah.
Exactly. But yeah, I mean...
I've got a question.
Oh, go on.
What about then, because I think we sort of touched on it, but we sort of haven't. So your friend there was playing a casual game, and at the other end of the scale, you've got, like the World Cup final, right? Mm-hmm. I think in the World Cup final, I'm guessing, hopefully you guys agree, I think in the World Cup final, stalling is absolutely a valid 100% tactic that will be employed, because the person whose drive it is will want to score and give the other person as little time as possible in the remaining time in that draw to score as well.
Yeah, I'd even go as far to say that in a World Cup final or whatever, it's almost a necessity, an inevitability, if you will.
Yeah.
Unless they're so confident in their own abilities that it's early on in the half that they think that they could just get it back off the other person and score again.
It's not a bad shout. They score in turn 2 and think, you know what, I've got an opportunity to go for this.
Yeah. Absolutely. They might think, you know what, I'm going to give you a ball back because I'm hoping we're going to get a blitz on kickoff, and I'm hoping I'm going to get hold of the ball again. Let's make it 2-0 instead.
Yeah. And it's maybe the context thing is important, because you've obviously got the opponent opposite you. You've got the type of game you're playing, right? So, is tournament going to be different than league for stalling? I don't know. I know fouling often gets really it gets a bad press, doesn't it, in turn 16 in a league, because you've got the potential to hurt people's players when you're not even going to be playing them again.
Yeah.
But you're trying to get skill points. But in a friendly, like if me and Sean were playing the other night and I was stalling, I don't think I'd feel very good about myself, because we've turned up to play a game.
If you were doing that, though, I'd just foul the shit out of you.
Yeah, well, it's not. You kick my shins.
Yeah, but remember, Sean, you're locked in.
Well, that's true. He kept feeding me drinks. I didn't know what was in them.
Gary, there's a serious narrative spawning here about you and your treatment of other people that you meet in Blood Bowl, isn't there?
Right. I want to dispel this rumour right straight away. Right? I think I am nothing but the hostess with the mostess when people come round to my house. I would even go as far as to suggest that Sean had as many refreshments as he needed. The environment was good and welcoming and friendly. He even got a couple of my shit dad jokes thrown in there for free. What was there not to like?
But in all seriousness,
I don't believe you. I don't stop speaking. Stop speaking. I don't believe you.
Gary has told me to say that he was the best host.
I'll pay you later.
Yeah.
The reason this is an audio-only podcast is because Gary's got a gun to Sean's back. Oh, brilliant. So, Gary, the question is here, like, aside of all the claims you just made to try and clear your name, Was the door indeed locked or not?
It wasn't locked. It was closed, and it just closes and locks, doesn't it? You know, when you close the door, if you've got a Yale lock and you shut the door, it is locked so that nobody can come in from the outside. I didn't double lock it.
What Sean doesn't know is that Yale lock was fitted about 10 minutes before he got there.
To be fair, it is a substantial. It is a substantially sized lock on the inside of our door. Sean did look at it and think, "Oh my god." It's like a barrel. It is like a barrel, like the size of a Coke can cut in half, crossways. It's one of those smart lock things.
Oh dear me, brilliant!
So what were we talking about again?
I forgot.
I do feel though. I feel that I need to give you a bit of vindication in this, Gary. That it was absolutely refreshing after memories of years and years ago playing war games with people where they get a bit shitty about it, or you get those stories of people just like chucking their figures off the table and all of that.
Yeah, throwing the table.
It was such a nice evening, and you were such a nice host.
I will pay you later. Do you need me to take this gun away now?
Yeah, please, yeah.
The gun has been put back down on the table. It's fine. We're all good.
You even got traffic advice of how to get home.
Oh my god, that is the hostess with the mostest traffic advice.
But the motorway, unbeknown to Sean, the motorway was being closed for resurfacing. So my missus came in and said, "Oh, by the way, don't jump on the motorway. Go up one junction and go there because you won't get home otherwise."
God, the host that has it all.
And I tell you what, I keep on outdoing myself as well because Matt came round, and I think Matt's in the Nuffles as well. But Matt came round the other day, and admittedly, right, we took 4 hours at least to play this league game. But at half time, we had fluffy hot chocolate with marshmallows.
Oh well, listen, locked door or not, I'm coming if there's a hot chocolate.
Right. And do you know what happened? We didn't finish till after 12. Got everything packed. Didn't even bother packing up. I kicked him out. Went up to bed, and the first thing the missus said to me is, "I never got a fucking hot chocolate."
And then she went downstairs and locked the door.
Kicked me out. Yeah, kicked me out.
Chucked all your figures on the floor.
Yeah, Gary walks in. His missus says, "I didn't get a hot chocolate," and Gary says, "I'm going to use a re-roll on that."
I'll tell you what, there has been a lot of, and no, I'm going off topic. I was going to go on a Gary tangent then, but I'm not going to.
No, do it.
But if you had a sticker, you could stick animosity on her.
Oh
yeah. Oh, that's a good one.
Sean is all over this, isn't he? He is absolutely all over it.
And then you can make it worse and stick ball and chain on her.
Oh.
This is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant.
Go on then, Gary. What's your tangent?
I was just going to talk about how your Blood Bowl sort of half-related jokes. So I think over the past week I've played a bit of Blood Bowl, and repeatedly people have said that they wanted to take a re-roll, but on a real-world situation.
Yeah,
and sort of the tongue-in-cheek Blood Bowl joke. Happens, and it's just like, I think I'm getting into Blood Bowl a bit too much. When Blood Bowl starts to apply to the real world, it's I think I might have a bit of an addiction problem, Baz. I'm putting down to you, to be fair.
Yeah, that's fine. I'll take blame on that one, mate. No problem at all.
You start like risk managing and making the tea. You know, like what's the most risky bit first?
Well, rolling dice to see if you successfully, go for it to pick the kettle up. Did I roll a 1? Nope, didn't roll a 1, so I can successfully pick the kettle up.
Roll a 1 and pour boiling hot water all over yourself.
That's when you need to re-roll.
Oh dear me, brilliant. So anyway, let's get back on track, shall we?
Nah. No, let's. So, what
in your guys' opinion, what are some instances in which you would absolutely, under no circumstances, stall? I know we just spoke about, the World Cup final where it's almost inevitable that either yourself or your opponent is going to stall. Let's delve into a little bit more about instances in which it's not feasible to even think about stalling. And I have one in my mind immediately, but I'll let you guys riff off on your opinions first.
If it was me, if I was 2-0 up already, or like 2 points ahead, I wouldn't stall.
Really?
2?
Yeah.
Maybe 3?
No, I'd go 2, because then you've got a chance, and then you can stall on the next one.
True, I like it. You protect your image, but you can still fuck them over.
Absolutely, that's a good one. I like that. I
What about
think
you, Gary?
if I was playing a really, really casual game with a mate, and it was 100% about shits and giggles, I don't think unless you were doing stalling with something like a stunty team against orcs, or like.
You're talking of experience here, Gary.
Well, I don't know. But yeah. I don't think you stalled, did you?
No.
No, I don't think you stalled. No. And actually, because I don't play stunty teams, but actually I did play sevens at the weekend, which we'll talk about later on. And I've got a bit of a liking for stunty teams. I came on last time and said I liked wood elves. Now, tell you what, it's not all just about bashy, is it?
Because you've been eyeing up my little men.
It's I'm not a stunty player at all. They are my kryptonite of Blood Bowl. I cannot manage the fact that they're so easy to kill. It's like when I play a stunty team, I can't snap out of the mind frame and play style of playing non-stunty teams. So I just get absolutely fucking battered.
Right.
It depends who you're against, though. I mean, I was out having a game with my little halfling guys against some dwarves. And God, I tell you what, halflings against dwarves is awful. All the tackles and stuff, they just put the shit. And
yeah.
Like, by the end of the game, I had 3 pieces left on the pitch. 2 of them were tree men up the wrong end. And it was like, what's the bloody point?
Yeah, that dwarves will do that to you.
So what about you, Baz? When would you absolutely have no problem? Would you never, ever, ever stall in? What situation would you never stall in?
Well, I think there's one specific area or scenario that is plainly obvious that neither of you mentioned. Ooh. And surely that is when you're teaching someone how to play.
Wow, no.
When you want to get out of the house alive.
Well, see, let me elaborate. What I mean is, for me, because I live in an area where there's not a great amount of Blood Bowl players, I can travel 30 minutes to Wakefield, my closest city, and there's the West Yorkshire Blood Bowl League, the guys who do the Wibble Cup once a year. I can if I want to, but if I don't want to travel far and stay, within the relative immediate area, there's not many players. So the moment that I get somebody saying, "Oh, I won't mind learning Blood Bowl," I will do everything in my power to make it sure that they play again. And I don't think stalling against them is gonna do that.
No.
Yeah, and I think depending on what kind of game you're playing, like if it's a league game or a championship thing or something, it might have a different effect. But I mean, if someone's had a shit day and they just come in and they're like, "Oh, Gary, do you know what?
Just want to throw some dice.
I've had a massive argument. The wife thinks I'm going out with you now, Gary, because I keep coming down to your house. Please don't stall on me."
Yeah, you need to stop parking at the bottom of my drive as well, if that's right. 4 days in a row is a little bit out of hand,
I've applied for a permit.
Residents only. Just got a residence permit on windscreen.
They will start talking about us. No, he has been round once, right? For clarity, right? He's been round once.
The backtracking,
and he's always welcome.
Oh dear. But yeah, that's the one area I can think of where Don't get me wrong. There are
I don't agree.
instances.
I don't agree.
No? Do
No,
you think
I
so?
reckon...
Is your argument that show them what stalling is so that they're prepared for it?
Yeah. So, yeah, absolutely. So I wouldn't probably do it in the first few games, but as you're starting to introduce different concepts to them, things like fouling and chain pushing and stalling, all of these tactics, like throwing teammates and using some of the goblin special weapons and some of the oddities of Blood Bowl that you probably don't learn in the first few games.
No, definitely not.
And actually, if you were to if we were to be serious about this, right, because we're never going to be, but if we were going to be serious about this, there's a whole bunch of conversation that you could probably have about stalling that talks about the intricacies of stalling and how you combat it and how you can successfully stall and what does a good stall look like, what does a weak stall look like, what does a good attacking of a stall look like. And I think we've touched on, if someone's going to stall on you, you didn't have enough players back and you've let them through, but secondly, put pressure on that cage that's around it and try to make them score in less turns than they intended to do.
Yeah, and I think that them sort of tactics or that sort of Blood Bowl knowledge again falls into that. Me and you have spoken at length, Gary, about what are the next steps after you have learnt the core rules and you know your own team. I would imagine that tactics when it comes to stalling yourself and cancelling out somebody else's stall kind of falls into that next sort of band of knowledge in terms of Blood Bowl. Would you agree?
Say that again.
So, me and you have spoke at length about how the entrance to Blood Bowl is very much learning the core rules and then understanding your own team. And we've spoke about what are the next steps to up in your game. And I personally think that the stuff around stalling that you just mentioned falls into that category, the next level kind of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And that
intermediate,
is probably
sort of just beyond. Just it's not quite basic, but it's it's the beginner level, sort of intermediate level. Yeah, absolutely.
Which is probably why I wouldn't do it against a new player. But like you say, after a couple of games, once they've got a bit of a taste for it, maybe they've done the same as you, Gary, and played 3 games and bought 25 teams. You think to yourself,
what about?
Hang on a minute. While we're on topic, the last time we recorded,
it's only 22 teams.
The last time we recorded, Gary, you told me what were on your painting table, and I said, "So yeah, by next episode, you're going to have 4 teams fully painted." And you've even missed an episode last week, so you've had 2 weeks. How are you getting on?
Yeah. I have since we last chatted, I have primed the remainder of a team that was only half primed.
Is that
that's the full amount of that's the full extent of my progress that I've made.
With a spray can?
No. I don't tend to use a spray. I know this is a bit controversial. I don't tend to use a spray can. I tend to use brush on primer, and I'm using the Vallejo black air gun primer.
Oh yeah. Airbrush.
Airbrush primer. And I use it because I ran out of a couple of primers. My garage is really, really cold in the winter, and I was getting a bit of a grainy sort of texture. And I thought somebody suggested it, so I just tried it. And I tell you what, this Vallejo black stuff, it is clean as you like. You can just whack it on, and no word of a lie, providing you don't let it pool too much. It dries so flat. Don't lose any detail. It's brilliant.
What's it like for brush strokes? Can you see brush strokes in it?
Nope, nothing.
Oh, nice.
No, I absolutely love it. Now I've also got the grey, and the grey is really patchy because the pigment obviously is not as good as the black. But I was talking to Ed about this at the weekend, and he was saying that actually when it comes to your undercoat, unless you're doing dry brushing, where you're trying to build up some light texture to be able to contrast or that sort of thing, unless you're just if you're just undercoating and priming, then actually the white stuff being patchy isn't too bad a thing if you're going to be basting afterwards.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So the only problem with the grey stuff, and it may well be because I'm not shaking, and I'm shaking it quite a lot, but maybe I'm not shaking it as much as I need to.
Yeah, and not only that, but the humidity in the air can also affect it as well. If it's too high, too low. I forget. There's like a sweet spot for humidity that will interfere less with your spraying, but I forget what it is off the top of my head. But yeah, there's loads of different factors. The temperature of the can as well.
Another Gary tangent to
go
go
on.
off on. No, that was it. The primer and the fact that I don't spray can.
But yeah, I'm primarily spray can purely for the speed of it. Most of the time, when I've built minis, the priming is just an unavoidable obstacle to actually getting some paint on them. So I'll just do whatever's quickest.
Nice.
Oh, I've got a new bugbear though about teams because I'm at the point now where I've painted all the stuff that I've got, so I want new teams. But you look at all the sort of ones you sort of play around with a little list in your head, and then you realise you've got to buy 2 boxes of the thing to make it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the best team. If a lot of people say, "What team can I buy?" That means once I've bought that box, I'm totally done. And the one that always comes to mind for me is dwarves. All you need is the death roller, and 9 times out of 10 people might not have the roster space in terms of price to be able to take one anyway. But you get absolutely everything you need. You get all your linemen, 2 blitzers, 2 runners, and 2 troll slayers, and you are done. And then if you wanted to, in the future, get hold of a death roller, you can. But again, it's one of the death roller is very situational, especially if you're playing exhibition or league. Like, you're going to be really late league getting it, or you're very unlikely to get it in just an exhibition match unless you're playing with an increased team cap. But yeah, for me, that is a team I'll always recommend because they're competitive enough in terms of they're all right for new players, and you can do some good stuff with them, and you get everything you need in the box. Then there's teams like the Wood Elves. You can take 4 catchers, but guess what? We're only going to give you 2 in the box. It's like, thanks for that Games Workshop.
This is a bit of a Sean tangent now. So years ago when I started, my team was dwarves. So I've still got that team, and I've got a death roller, although I realised very soon that I don't know how to use it, and it was just a waste of points. But playing them, I think there's a thing that when you're young, you kind of... I think I was a bit more competitive than I am now. And so I kind of wanted a team that was like hard as nails. And you totally get that with dwarves. But now I want a team that plays nicer. And you don't get that with dwarves. It's just really boring.
Oh, God, yeah. Dwarves, for me, I think they are equally as boring to play as they are to play against, in my opinion. If they slow the game down so much. There are so many skills that they are good at, like, deactivating in a sense. Then you've got the troll slayers who can attempt a 1 dice block on your big guy because of Dauntless. It's just... I always feel like when I play against dwarves that I'm having to churn the game out. Like, oh, come on, let's just get to the end of this, which is no fun because, we've taken time out to play. And for me to then turn 4, be like, I'm not enjoying this at all. They're just unpleasant to play against.
You don't get any of those little glory moments either. Like with the halflings, at least, even if you're not doing well or you're doing all right, you sort of, in the back of your mind, you're always like, but I could just throw the guy.
Yeah, for shits and gigs. Things are a little bit stale. Here we go. Let's launch this guy downfield. Done.
This is what I love about goblins. The shits and giggles. It's just bonkers, isn't it?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Secret weapons and all the contraptions and all of that sort of stuff. I think it's just hilarious.
Oh, it's insane.
I've not played them. I've not played goblins, but I've played against
I've never played them, but I've played against them. But for the first time, at the back end of last year, I played against someone who had taken one of the Doom Divers.
Oh, yeah.
I have no issues admitting when he said, "Oh, I've got a Doom Diver." I just literally said to him, "I've got no fucking idea what that means. Did you mind filling me in on what it does and what skills it's got?" I had no clue whatsoever.
Oh, I know one thing it does, which is when you're rolling for the scatter on chucking a teammate, it goes forward 3.
Yeah, you can choose either up or down the pitch and roll a D3 instead of Is it a D3? No. Yeah.
Something
Whichever
along
one it
those
is.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
You
better than
basically
random.
choose forwards or backwards and then roll to see which square in that direction it goes, don't you? Yeah, but it was one of those moments where he pulled out a fantastic looking mini, a 3D printed one. Can you even get a Games Workshop Doom Diver?
Yeah.
Can you?
They had contraptions, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right.
This is a bit of a segue now. I remember years and years ago, I must have been, how old was it? It was my friend's 15th birthday party. He rented a church hall and we played Warhammer, but we didn't have enough figures. So we used like cereal boxes and we had like a couple of lines of guys at the front with squares drawn on the back. And I think it was like 16 feet long we made the board and like 8 foot wide. And we never caught on to this. So I had big dwarf army and I had some high elves with me. And then we were against orc and goblins, like a giant orc and goblin army. And so the beginning of the day we started we literally played all day. By the end of it, my dwarfs got halfway across the board. and what we realised is he took Doom Divers, and in the old Warhammer rules, Doom Diver, you could shoot anything on the pitch, like on the board. You just got to guess the distance. So he was just shooting us turn one. And it was like, bloody hell. What was the point of that?
Oh, dear me. So, shall we get back on track again?
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Is there going to be any point, you think?
I mean, there's not really any point unless we just keep sharing his opinions on stalling, or we can go back to thinking of some more of the old fridge stickers. Or let's not limit it to fridges.
I'll tell you what we haven't done, Baz.
Oh, here we go.
We have not asked Sean his questions.
Oh, you are absolutely correct. Let me get those up immediately. Bear with me one quick second.
Did anybody warn Sean that this was going to happen?
No, they didn't, so he hasn't even had a chance to prepare. Right, here we go. Let's have a quick look, shall we? A quick look-see.
Gary's already got my message.
So we've got a couple of questions that we are going to continue to ask all of our guests moving forward, Sean. We've got a couple of Blood Bowl centric ones, and then a couple of ridiculous ones, which is quite befitting considering we've spent a third of this episode so far talking about what stickers we'd put on stuff in his fridge. So the first one is, what is your favourite Blood Bowl team, mate?
At the minute, I quite like my halflings.
Yeah.
I know you don't, but I do.
What? So if we take away from that at the minute, in all of your time playing Blood Bowl, even back in the 90s and now, which team would you say you've played the most games with? We'll word it that way.
I probably played the most with dwarves. But it's one of those things. I always wanted a halfling team, but they were really difficult to get back then, and they looked a bit crap.
Well, nothing changed.
I think that's what yeah. I've only had a bit of experience with the sort of the teams that I've got now. So I've got halfling, black orc, dwarf, nobility, and a bit of a human team from the old starter set.
Yeah.
So I have no experience of like all these undead, shambling, corn chosen things and anything like that.
Brilliant. So the next one is, which team do you least like to play against? What if somebody says I'm bringing this team? Which team makes you roll your eyes and think, oh god?
Well, given that I don't know half of them, probably all of them, but it might be interesting at the same time. But if it's my halflings and I'm playing them, dwarves definitely.
Yeah, I had a feeling the answer to that one were going to be dwarves. And next, mate, we've got, even with your limited experience getting back into the game, even if you've not tried both of these, just at first glance, which setting of Blood Bowl do you think you prefer? Either a league setting or format, should I say, or tournament?
Well, I'm sort of in the process of signing up to both.
Oh, nice.
So I was been chatting to David a bit from your last podcast.
Oh, yeah.
And funny enough, I was actually waiting to be on a league close to home But I sort of was emailing the organizer and stuff, and I just wasn't getting much feedback. And then David comes along, and he's like, "Oh, do this! It's brilliant! Let's do this!" And it's like, "Oh, that's customer service," and I work in customer service. And I tell you what, it's really, really lovely when you've got people that are just really passionate about it. And I think that's what kind of drew me to you guys in the first place.
Yeah.
And it's just lovely having people like that, and it's enthusiasm sort of breeds enthusiasm, and so yeah, I'll be signing up to that league.
So the answer to that one is both, then.
Well, yeah, totally. I mean, that's another bit that I've not had great experience with is when you get like I guess you'd call it like a vanilla team, and then start throwing skills in them.
Yeah,
because that's another sort of I guess that's like another next level thing, isn't it? Where
definitely team advancement,
and that means other things.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And let's face it, if your answer to that question were both, and as far as I'm concerned, more Blood Bowl is always good Blood Bowl. So yeah, fantastic. If you can do both, do both.
Well, that's it. Yeah.
So next question is, I'm not sure if you've played Blood Bowl 3, the video game, or used Fumble, the online version, or anything like that. And do you know what? I think we need to get rid of this question, Gary, because anyone in the right mind is always going to choose tabletop. But if one of these two ways of playing Blood Bowl had to go away, which one would you keep, tabletop or online?
I think tabletop, definitely. Cause
it's a no-brainer.
Well, that's why I got back into it. It's the social thing, isn't it? It's meeting people.
Absolutely.
It's doing all that.
Yeah, definitely. And then we've got this one is an interesting one. And I hope that despite your limited experience while getting back into it, you've maybe still got one for us. But what is your favourite Blood Bowl moment you've had so far in your journey, mate?
Apart from getting locked into Gary's house.
that was pretty much up there. Well, actually, it was pretty good because that's the first game I've ever won with my halflings.
Oh, there you go. There you go. All it took was getting locked in Gary's house.
That's right, yeah.
And the final one of the Blood Bowl questions before I move on to some daft ones. If you could delete one skill from the game of Blood Bowl, which one would you pick? Did you hear the cogs churning in his brain?
Yeah.
Tackle from dwarves at the minute.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there, to be fair. What would you, out of interest, Gary, what would yours be?
If I could get rid of one skill?
Yeah.
Oh, God, there's so many. You'd have to let me think about it. I wasn't expecting you to think about it.
Caught him off guard.
I've got a more sensible, questionable answer here. So, as I've been looking through the different skills, what the hell does Fumble Rooski do?
Fumble Rooski.
Is Fumble Rooski the one where you can choose to put the ball down without it causing a turnover?
Yeah. So you put the ball on the floor.
Yeah. It's actually really effective because you can, in essence, gain yourself an extra hand off that turn. So you could run up with a player, place the ball on the floor, another player could run and pick it up, then he could run off and do a handoff, then that player hands it off to go do a pass.
Oh, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, so you would think, although it's dependent on agility still, so it's essentially like gaining a free extra handoff in essence.
You're not going to be giving it to lizards or orcs, are you?
God, no. So we got two stupid questions for you. Well, no, do you know what, Gary? Let's be fair. I think these are probably more important than the Blood Bowl questions.
I absolutely agree with you.
So the first one, and I think this is the more important of the two, to be fair. What is your favourite biscuit and why, Sean?
Okay. Well, I think if I know this correctly, I know what the correct answer is, but it's not the answer I'm going to give.
You're not going to say Bourbon then, no?
I'm not going to say Bourbon, no.
Oh my God, get him out the fucking podcast now.
I wouldn't say
everyone
Bourbon.
from up north must like a Bourbon. But
I love a Bourbon.
I'm more of a cookie person myself. You know, where you got like a lot of substance in it, and it's
like a Maryland.
Yeah, but it's going to sound real classy now, like a farm shop. decent, real fat.
Oh God! I didn't realise we had a member of the upper class with us.
Well, not at all. But we just live in the country down here. There's farm shops everywhere. There's a tournament in the farm shop coming up.
Yeah, we just dip everything in gravy up here. Like, there's none of that fanciness up here.
There's nothing wrong with dipping stuff in
gravy.
Fry
it and pour gravy over it.
That's it. What about, go on then, Gary, because you've surprised me there. What's your favourite biscuit and why?
So, a bourbon definitely makes it into my top 10, right? So it's a good all-round solid biscuit.
I would argue it's one of the best biscuits in terms of texture and taste after being dipped in a brew.
Well, but then you're including, do you need to absolutely have a brew every time you have a bourbon?
We are British, of course.
See, now, I do like a brew with a biscuit, but I also like a biscuit, without a brew.
Of course I have Yorkshire tea. I don't drink any. I literally accepted the job I'm in now because she told me that they only use Yorkshire tea bags in the canteen.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic.
Go on then, Gary. Give us your controversial biscuit opinion.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's controversial, but I just thought everybody.
The answer's not bourbon, so it is controversial.
It's not
but continue.
Well, it's not, is it? It's a. I really have to tell you.
It's custard cream, isn't it?
Absolutely. Oh my God!
Custard cream. Would a custard cream make a top 10?
Absolutely not. They're the most overrated biscuit on planet.
It's like yin yang to the bourbon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a race war.
There's a bit of biscuitism going on here.
I think so.
Right, so mine. I now had a moment where I'm absolutely having a mind blank. Yes, I remember what it is. It's the Royal Marine of biscuits.
Oh yeah, I know what you're going to say. I accept
Chocolate hobnob.
Yeah, chocolate hobnob. That is a very, very. Do you know what? I take back everything I said. That's a solid choice.
And it may not be your top biscuit, but it's got to be up there, hasn't it?
Yeah, no, I'm in agreement. The only problem with hobnobs is you find yourself picking them out your teeth with your tongue for about 3 hours after.
That's brilliant, isn't it? You save a bit for later.
It's a long-term investment.
I could sort of go with a hobnob because it's halfway to a cookie, really.
Yeah,
it's closer to a cookie. And then we've got one more silly question for you, Sean. If you could be a fruit, which one would you be and why?
That is a bit of a silly question, isn't it?
Yeah, oh, it's very silly.
Be a fruit?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know.
Oh, we've got him, Gary.
I do, yeah. I don't know. Probably be a gooseberry because I went to Gary's house.
Go on, Gary.
I know the answer.
What about you?
I know the answer to both of my questions now. So the fruit one is definitely going to have to be rhubarb. Hate rhubarb, but fuck me, I talk a lot, don't I? Rhubarb. And my skill is absolutely 100% sneaky git.
Oh,
I hate
yeah.
it.
What a fucking nightmare.
I hate it with a passion.
I think there's a story behind this. Have you had your fingers burnt in a really significant way by any chance, Gary?
Yes. Yeah. So Black Orcs, right? If their goblins have got sneaky git, oh my God. Is it grab? It is grab, isn't it? The Black Orcs.
Yeah.
Grab and sneaky git. Bloody hell, that doesn't half decimate your team.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Absolutely. Because they can just grab them so that there's loads of people offering assists on a foul, and the next thing you know, that sneaky little fucker runs in and just stamps on their head, and next thing you know, they're dead.
Yep.
I don't even know what my fruit of choice would be if I could be a fruit.
It's not a fruit of choice, because I was thinking about this. It's not a favourite fruit, is it? Because my favourite fruit would probably be something like apples or bananas or something like that. But what fruit sort of reflects you best?
If you're being practical, apples are definitely the best fruit because they're the most practical, aren't they?
Oh my God!
Yeah, for all those people that were tuning in for some Blood Bowl, really sorry. We're just taking a break.
That's it.
Do you know what? I might even have to wait until the beginning of the next episode for mine, because that's good. I'm going to be thinking about that all night.
Brilliant.
Hey, I tell you what we should do. For us listeners, can you please leave because there's a little suggestion thing underneath the podcast episode if you're listening on Spotify. Can you please and this is not about what your favourite biscuit is or what fruit you want to be. If you've got any more of the stickers in the fridge thing,
yes,
please let us know. Because I know for a fact that you guys will have far better ones than us three idiots.
So basically, it is the skills in Blood Bowl have been turned into stickers. If you were going to stick them on a food in your fridge, which skill would go where?
Oh, yeah. Honest to God. There's a proper full 3-hour episode in there. If we got the rulebook and went through every single skill.
Brilliant. Whilst I'm here then, okay, now we're on the apple theme. What's your favourite apple? Ooh.
A sliced one.
Oh, I like a pink lady. I'm feminine.
I do like a pink lady. It's nice and sweet.
I don't like a Granny Smith. I always feel like I'm going to dislocate my jaw in a Granny Smith.
Have you got one of those? Have you got one of those little devices that sort of you push down on your apple and it chops it up into segments and cores it for you at the same time?
Oh yeah, I know what you mean. I haven't got one, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, we got one of those. I absolutely love little wedges of apple. I love it.
Do you know, years ago, Gary, they invented a thing called a knife.
What?
This thing called a knife, right? And it's like a multi-tool. You can use it for everything.
Really?
Yeah.
I must we must catch up again sometime soon, Sean, so that we can talk about knives. Come round to my house and we'll talk about knives.
I'm just laughing at how fucking boring this is. Somebody's tuned in. He's like, "Oh, I'm really looking forward to hearing about the ins and outs of stalling and all the morality around it and the politics within the community." And now we're talking about his favourite fucking biscuits and what fruit we want to eat.
I really feel sorry, right, for Steve, who's missing out on all this fun, and also David, right, who steered us last week into some proper Blood Bowl conversation. We have completely derailed that this week.
Well, actually, let's bring it all back again. Bring it all back. So all the listeners now that have listened to this, we've effectively stalled out a 20-minute podcast.
We've fucking done
that. How do you feel about it? How do you feel about that stalling that we've done?
Yeah, drop a comment below. Drop a comment below and let us know how you feel that we've just wasted an hour and 30 minutes of your life.
They won't be listening again, unless you can promise that you're going to be answering those questions next week. Then maybe people might listen in.
Oh yeah, I'm sure I'll answer them next week. In fact, I'll tell you what I did forget to do. Sean, have you got any questions off the top of your head that you would like to add to that list for us to ask to future guests?
Favorite apple.
Favorite apple.
I love how Sean was just given the choice between two lists. Add a serious, thought-provoking question to the Blood Bowl question list, or stick on another one about fruit, and he went for fruit. Good man.
Totally, man. Without a doubt.
Oh, dear me, that's brilliant. Well, I'll be honest with you, gents, I think we've covered just about everything that we wanted to cover. You know, the old stickers in the fridge.
We've got a few. Do we want to do a quick roundup on tournaments? I think there's a few of us going off to Global, not this weekend, the following weekend.
Yeah, by all means, mate. If you want to talk about some upcoming tournaments, I've not had a chance to look at the list myself, but if you've got it in front of you or can get it in front of you, by all means.
To be fair, I don't think it's changed too much, but I think the big one that I think David would not be happy if we didn't mention it would be the Troll Bowl of June. That's now been announced, and I think he's managed to get, I can't remember what they're called, and they're a local firm. They're absolutely brilliant. Do you remember, Sean, the pitch people?
Oh, it's in that message. It's in the WhatsApp group, isn't it?
Yeah. So there's some guys on.
I've got it. It's Pro Turf.
Yes, Pro Turf. So Pro Turf have actually given him a pitch for first prize for the Troll Bowl competition in June, which is just north of Exeter. That's all on Talk Fantasy Football, and it's on. I think it's probably going to be on the NAF website because I think it's been approved, or he's just waiting for it to be finalised. But it's the same rule set as most of the Southwest tournaments.
That's the farm shop one, right?
That's the farm shop one, yeah. In the
Good
farm
cookies?
shop, yeah. Good very good cookies. Good butchery as well, and it's got an amazing little cafe as well. So that's going to be good. He's got room for he's got room for more than 100, but he's capped it at 100. So don't know how many we're going to get, but we will see. I think there's some good sign up so far. Also, he has got Charlie Victor as well sponsoring it.
Yeah, so, Charlie Victor, good sponsor to have.
Yeah, so there's a few things there, and I know Charlie Victor have been announcing a few new nicey things as well recently. They've got some tokens out. Yeah, they got some more, like the Negatrait bands, but they're not Negatrait bands. They are a Blitz band and a Foul band, I think I saw.
All right, okay, very nice.
Yeah, so those are, I think, available as well. And then he's got all of the metal bases as well have all started to come back into stock as well recently.
Very nice. Is the any other? Do you want to mention Global really quick, Gary?
Well, Global, yeah, I think it's full. I don't know if it's.
There's
four of us going. Is Steve still going? I think he said he was going to go. We got 3 or 4 of us going.
Yeah, he did say we were going to go, didn't he?
Yeah, and he said he got a pass, so I'll double check with him and see if he's going. So there's Global. I think there's quite a few more tournaments. I've signed up for the Andy Dave-Votational, the Dave-Votational. I've signed up for that. I think I'm possibly thinking about going to the Paynton one for the Southwest. I don't think I've got too many more signed up, but one of the other things I've started doing as well is started playing sevens recently as well this last week.
Sevens.
Had a few games of sevens. My plan was to play it just because it's a quicker game. It's not turned out that way. It's just more chatting time, isn't it? So yeah, I think we all know what the rhubarb problem is. My problem. I need to shut the fuck up and just play Blood Bowl.
Brilliant. Anything else you want to plug, Gary, in terms of tournaments or anything like that, mate? Before I plug Nomads.
I can't think of anything. I don't know, Sean, if you can think of anything.
Isn't there, on the grapevine, isn't there supposed to be an announcement coming out on the 6th of April? Is that what we're sort of waiting for? Is that thinking Gnome Day? Is that the one?
I haven't seen that.
It's on the what's the one? The other podcast, the one where they got is it both down? Is that the one?
Yeah.
And they were suggesting that there might be a gnome something on the 6th of April.
Oh, right. Very interesting.
We'll pre-release out
for that. I reckon it's a pre-release, yeah.
Yeah, probably. So, to me, though, that means that if they're going to be announcing the pre-release, then they're going to be coming quite a bit quicker than we thought.
Well, I think, I haven't listened to the whole of their podcast yet, but it seems like they're under the impression that if they're doing that now, then come November time, there potentially could be another starter set with High Elves and Khemri.
Oh, yeah. I hope
Khemri's Tomb Kings?
It is.
Right.
Oh, that'll be very interesting. Well, we will see. I personally would have thought that we weren't going to get a new edition anytime soon, especially with Blood Bowl 3 only just really getting its legs. But, who knows? Fingers, as I said earlier, more Blood Bowl is always good Blood Bowl.
And do we need any amendments to the rules? Is it just going to be minor tweaks? I don't think there needs to be any major.
They made a really good point in it, which is sort of all the new sets. Like the last one, the one that I bought recently anyway, you kind of needed to make it, or Games Workshop needed to make it, still that people would buy it. So they threw in loads of extra stuff. So it made it actually really good value. So now everyone's got that set. So you need to make it so it's worth again. So you're going to throw in 2 teams that people don't have. It sort of seems worth it. And
2 teams they're not going to have, and maybe a couple of stars, or just a full roster.
Yeah, and then you can tottle up all the FAQs and all of that, stick them in a new rule book, then you're done.
Yeah. Did the referees come in the 2021?
Yeah,
they did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I've got the referees, but I didn't buy the 2020. I bought them separately.
Interesting, but to see where. Wow, I didn't think there were even going to be rumours of a new edition just yet. But
I think
fingers
it's all just
crossed.
wishful thinking slightly, but
Even just a box, just a starter box, because there is a lot of people. I don't know. It's the impression I get that there is a lot of new people getting into Blood Bowl, and I think we've always my hashtags that we've got, the stupid game hashtag, and the gift that keeps giving. I think are my two big hashtags, and it really is the game that keeps giving, isn't it? It's because once you get underneath it and you've played the basics, I can't even blooming get my head around the basics yet. But once you've played the basics, there is so much under the rug that you have to learn to even be proficient at Blood Bowl, let alone be good.
Yeah, definitely, absolutely. Wow, a new edition. What a thought, eh? I tell you what, I would prefer to Tomb Lords or Tomb Kings or whatever. I would prefer, and we spoke about it in one of those recent episodes. I'd prefer High Elves versus Chaos Dwarves.
Could be.
I think that one would be really interesting. Purely because I just like both them teams. I'm being pretty selfish, if I'm honest.
They're quite contrasty teams, though, aren't they? You've got like fast and slow, armored not so much, and
yeah, and that is a theme that Games Workshop seem to follow in Blood Bowl. You had the Orcs versus Humans in 2016, then we had Nobility versus Black Orcs in 2020. So maybe Chaos Dwarfs versus High Elves would make a little bit more sense, maybe.
Yeah, well, they definitely think High Elves are going to come, aren't they? Because of that new, is it the Jordell figure that got released?
Yeah, well, a lot of people are saying that they think he might have been potentially released for gnomes because they reckon that gnomes might have the Elven Kingdoms rule, meaning they can take Elven star players, but we'll see. Time will tell.
They'll be the human one. They'll be able to have Griff.
Well, maybe we will see. But as I say, any Blood Bowl news is always good, and more Blood Bowl is always good.
I haven't felt this excited about stuff since I was, way back in the day, and all this stuff was coming out. It was really good.
I think you touched on a brilliant one thing there, Sean, as well. If Games Workshop can continue to release content at a reasonable pace rather than being as slow as they always are, they could really catch a wave of everything that's going on.
Oh, completely. Yeah. And especially if they don't just be a dick about it and just try and, market it to people to sell stuff and actually make it like a hobby that they want to retain people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then they're on a winner.
Yeah. Cool.
And fingers
what as well, we didn't do, Baz, before we finished, we didn't once talk about the NAF, so I think that's a good thing to finish on, isn't it? We didn't talk about the NAF.
Absolutely. And if anybody's got nothing else to say, I'll quickly plug Nuffles Nomads.
Oh, brilliant.
Lovely. So for anyone who hasn't already heard, which you should have done if you've been listening to the episodes because they've been mentioned relentlessly of late, I started a community after meeting Gary at Bugman's Belter called Nuffles Nomads, and the idea is to build a community with a mixture of experienced and new players, with the main goal being to get more newer players attending tournaments. We all know that, especially for those of us that are more introverted than others, that turning up to tournaments alone with nobody to go with can be quite anxiety-inducing. So the idea behind our community is to get people to interact online and organise to meet up at tournaments together, because I know for me personally, I would find it much easier to attend a tournament if I knew I was meeting up with somebody that I was already familiar with, even if it was only online. So that is the aim of Nuffles Nomads, get everybody up and down the country in one space so we can literally pop in there. This tournament's just been announced. I'm buying a ticket, who's coming, and hopefully in the not so distant future we'll be in a situation where when somebody posts that, 10, 12, 15 other people say, yep, I'm buying a ticket now. We all stay in a hotel together and go out for a couple of drinks, whatever, and enjoy some Blood Bowl. What do you reckon, guys? That's the end goal, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
So
Correct. So what I'll do is I will pop the link to join our WhatsApp community in the description for this video. Please just be mindful, though, because we are a WhatsApp community, you will have to share your mobile number to be able to join. So if that's something you're not comfortable with, then totally understand that. And, if it's not for you, that's absolutely fine. But after that, there's nothing else to mention. Thank you very much for joining me, gents.
Thank you ever so much for having us.
Thank you for having me. I hope you might have me back again, but you probably won't.
Definitely not.
No.
Definitely not.
Well, it just depends if you survive the next visit to Gary's house.
Gary's new hashtag, don't invite Sean.
I could think of no better person to have around my house.
Oh, how wholesome. And on that note then, gents, I'll end the recording. Thank you very much for listening, everybody, and we'll see you for the next one.